The Dallas Cowboys have lost back-to-back home games. The scoreline may have been close, but did it actually flatter them? Or did the Ravens try their best to mess this one up? Because we know what they're like in the fourth quarter. Will, first of all, thoughts on the Cowboys? Because I think you've got a few takes on this one.
Yeah, no, Dallas, it's just late game heroics again. That gets a lot of hate. A lot of people say it's always the slow starts. They basically got mollywopped early on. I think it was for the first three quarters. They were essentially like a no-show. And they only come alive in the fourth, but it's too little too late, as always. They couldn't really get anything going on defense. And that's almost like 2 weeks in a row where teams have been able to sort of run on them. I think that like the game that they played, like Jerry Jones, like their run game wasn't where it needed to be. It was non-existent. And I think if they had a balanced attack, like, don't get me wrong, the Ravens are one of those teams that if they get ahead, they're a very hard team to beat, and they're almost built to play either neck and neck or ahead. And
Derrick Henry, 150 yards in this one.
Yeah. I think they realize that they do have Derrick Henry in the backfield. He's a pure eye back. And they were able to sort of utilize him, and it shows. Like, did you guys see that mean stiff arm? I remember I was at work watching this, and I nearly bounced off my desk. I was there like, "Oh, that's disrespectful."
Well, that's why I said last week if they gave him the 5 carries, they would have won the game.
Yeah.
You did say that, right? You said exactly about, was it 25 you said?
Yeah.
That's about 20 to 25 carries. That's what
right. And they gave him 25 carries and he got 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. Lamar with 14 carries, 87 yards and a touchdown. Justice Hill was going at over 6 yards a clip as well for his 5 carries. They completely and utterly obliterated them on the ground. Lamar only had 12 completions in this one for a touchdown. Didn't need to do much, but I think all of this was prefaced on, if you look at it from Dallas from an offensive point of view, they couldn't move the ball on the ground.
Nope. Nico Dordal, 32 yards as your starting tailback. Zeke is...
And Zeke had 3 carries for 6 yards, right?
Yeah, and Deuce Vaughn is... I'm pretty sure I'm taller than Deuce Vaughn. That's not saying a lot, but he's freaky athletic, though, but you're going to need something else there. And I think Jerry Jones instead, I wouldn't be surprised if they make a grab at someone.
They need something else. They need something that isn't what the status quo. If you look at CD was locked up in the majority. 4 catches, 67 yards. The majority of the targets went to Jake Ferguson, and that means Dak was going to his safety net all the time because that's the tight end was his safety net.
Yep.
And when you don't
had a few drops in this game,
well, and you had the fumble as well,
and the fumble, and I think that was sort of like Dak was like, all right, you're like your head's not in the game, like your hands are usually really short-footed, but you've been dropping a few balls this game, so I'm not going to risk it, especially knowing how much of a deficit we're in. So yeah, like you said, he had to go to Jake. He had to find someone else that could make those plays.
He threw the ball 51 times in this one.
That's not a recipe in this league. You're not going to win a lot of football games throwing the ball 50 times. That's not going to happen. It's a recipe for disaster.
Now, you were saying obviously about the them going behind very quickly. Halftime they were down 21-6, right?
Crippling.
The Ravens had the kickoff and they went down in 3 minutes with another touchdown. Derrick Henry with a 26-yard run, and everyone thought, "All right, this game's done." And if you look at it from a stats point of view, it's all this backloaded because they didn't really start to turn up until 5 minutes into the fourth quarter. When it's desperation time, the defense gets soft. And you're able to, get those chunky, get down the field. Now, I don't know how much the Cowboys can gain from this. But what the Ravens definitely need to sort out is their ability to self-combust towards the end of games.
I think this game kind of helped them figure out their identity. You know, I think they tried to get away from that early on. Now they know what they need to do.
But at the end of the game, they were doing everything in their power to try and lose this game.
Yeah.
They had Zay Flowers on the onside kick, completely let the ball go through his hands.
The ball go through his hands, and that was...
And he made sure the second time round, but it was more of they need to clean things up a little bit because this game should have been plain sailing once you're 28. You're 3 scores up. You should not be having this end with you trying to... a great play, nevertheless, by Lamar with that fake sweep they did.
Yeah.
And he fooled everyone on that one, but it shouldn't have to come to that at all.
It's true. They have the formula right there. They are a run first team, and you know what? It's okay to be that run first team in an NFL. That everyone wants to pass the ball more times than they should. The Ravens don't have to do that. This is the formula. You have Derrick Henry, and like you finally let him loose, and you see the kind of damage he can do. Like you can win a lot of games this way, you know. So I just hope this is probably going to be the Ravens taking off, depending on the rest of their schedule. They're going to have some tough games, but if they play a lot of games like this, if Derrick Henry can get to like 120
they've got a nice easy one next week. We'll talk about that game. They've got the Bills.
Ooh, yeah. Again, they should win. They should win.
They've got the Bills at M&T Bank, so they've got it in Baltimore, right? Yep. But we'll talk about that later on in the week. Now, one thing they also need to clean up is penalties. They had 13 penalties for 105 yards in this game.
That's another touchdown right there. They just left that on the field.
So if 13 penalties, there are little things that you just need to improve upon, especially when you're up in the game. You don't want to allow the team too much to try and bring that back. You just want to keep it forward and then make them bring in their backup. Pummel them so badly that like what the Vikings did to the Texans, right? The Vikings kept that lead and they're like, nope, right, you're done. That's what the Ravens need. The next game's going to be difficult because it's going to be a close one. But if you look at some of the games that coming up, games that they could potentially a game, say for example against the Commanders, they'd be expected to win that one. But it's more of if they get up to a lead, they need to hold it and hold it good. But Ravens did really well in this one. Cowboys, until they get a good run game, people are going to put a double team on CD and they're going to say, okay, you're going to have to make somebody else beat us. Because I don't think anybody else can. They don't have enough talent in their skill positions, right?
Yeah, I mean, for both sides of the line, really, because when you think about it, they can't stop the run, and they can't run the ball themselves. So basically, that's the biggest problem. And any team playing the Cowboys going forward is going to formula. Let's try and run a football on them and see how far we can go. Let's try and stop the run. Because that's now the open playbook for playing the Cowboys. Until that changes, every team's going to follow what the Ravens pretty much does.
So if you look at it, right, and coming on to that, first game they gave up 93 yards on the ground, right? But the Cleveland Browns didn't really do anything. They looked hapless, right? They had 230 yards total offense. Yeah. Saints had 190 yards rushing. Ravens had 274 yards rushing. Completely and utterly gashed in the run game. They need to shore things up on both sides of from D-line and an offensive line perspective, because otherwise they're not going to be able to allow Dak to run the offense in the way that he needs to run it. And that will prove problems for them going later on in the season. So, Cowboys have got a lot of things to look at and try and get things better. But they've got a nice divisional matchup next week in the Giants. And then they've got a tough defense. They've got two tough teams. Tough defense in the Steelers in Pittsburgh. And then the Lions at Jerry Wells. So the next home game is against the Lions. And what do the Lions do? Run the ball. So
They're running
yeah.
football.
So it's going to be
They're not playing
really.
the Cardinals this year, are they?
They do not. They don't play that division this year. But if you look at their schedule, So they Giants, Steelers, Lions, and they're going to bye. And they come back, and then they have this set of 4 games: 49ers in San Francisco, the Falcons in Atlanta, the Eagles at home, and then the Texans at home.
Okay.
So
Gauntlet.
that is a bit of a gauntlet for them. The schedule gets a little bit softer towards the end of the season, but you don't want to be playing yourself out of it. Now, we're not saying they're going to lose all of these games, but it's more of they need to improve things and they need to get a lid on it quickly.